Sophia, and this is my video response for the final exam. So, I would say that a topic that really stuck out to me and was really interesting to me was learning about courtesy stigma and how parents approach situations related to their kids' behavior with autism and ADHD. I never realized that it was such like a prevalent issue and it was very eye-opening and educational to learn about. I want to work with kids with disabilities and their families after graduation, so it was something that I knew would stick with me anyway, but it was also just very eye-opening because a lot of parents approach the situation in different ways. Like some parents are advocates for their children at school, or they sit with them during school, or they go with them to their clubs, or you know, use different like resources. Like they are only friends with other parents that have children with similar cognitive developmental disabilities. So that was very interesting for me to learn about, and it was also very eye-opening too. If some parents feel like they can't take their kids like to the park, or they can't take their kids to a museum or out in public somewhere because they're afraid of how their child is going to act with other children, but also the stigma and the discrimination that they're going to face based off of their child's behavior. Other people like judging the parent for how their child is acting without really like understanding the situation. And I just understand that it's a very stressful thing to go through. And I always wonder, like, after reading that, I was like, have I done that to other people? Have I seen like a child misbehaving in public and I automatically like judge the parent for it? Because people assume all the time that the parent should be in complete control of what their child does, and that's just not fair. So yeah, that was very eye-opening, very educational for me to learn about. I don't think came up on the exam too much, but I think there was maybe one question about it, but it was something that really stuck with me. And then for part B, I would say I studied for this exam how I studied for all of them. I filled out the study guide and made sure that I had like my notes up and the textbook up and all the graphics were up too. I made sure I had everything laid out for me during the exam because it's happened before where there's a question that comes up and I don't have anything ready, like I don't have my notes out, I don't have my textbook out. So I made sure I had everything laid out for me, like in my tabs like surrounding the exam so I could go and click. And I also looked over everything and made sure I knew where the info was and what each chapter was about so I could go and find the information when I needed it. And that made it very smooth sailing for this exam. It made it very, I don't want to say easy, but it made it like a lot better to go find the info that I needed. And then for part C, I would say that a question I had some trouble on was, I don't remember the number of it, but it was about the US and how it compares to North Korea. And I think the options were like firearm ownership and gun deaths. And I know I chose incarceration of citizens because I was looking at other graphics. I couldn't find anything about it in the textbook or in my notes or anything. So I looked at the graphics for gun deaths and firearm ownership, I think, in the US, and how it just like wasn't comparable to any country. And then there was a third option, and I kind of used process of elimination, and I looked at like our incarceration rates and how that compares. And just based off of like my prior knowledge of North Korea, I was guessing that that would be the answer that's the most probable. So after using process of elimination and looking at other information from the graphics in the textbook and my notes, that's what I chose. And yeah, that was how I solved that issue, and I was very happy that I had all of my information ready for me. Thank you.